First things first, the first episode had a very positive reception and did very well for a video of mine. I'm just doing this as I go, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So the first episode I felt was too slow, so in this one we're definitely going to pick up the pace. Firstly, we completed our Cruel Labyrinth, in which we picked up Mastermind of Discord, which is going to bump up the resistance shred on our Wave of Conviction quite a bit, a decent boost for our currently rather low single target damage. At this point, the plans for the future labyrinths are probably Heart of Destruction and Bastion of Elements. Heart of Destruction will be a nice clear speed increase with the big 60% increased AoE, and also a really solid single target damage boost of 30% more damage, somewhat situationally, but I believe the ignites snapshot, so we should be able to use it quite effectively. Bastion of Elements, however, is quite a nice defensive boost, but right now I feel like the first problems we're going to run into the endgame are our damage being too low for bosses and rares while clearing maps, so I think our Merciless Lab is going to be the Heart of Destruction to try and solve this problem a little bit. And after that, we're at the Act 10 Kitava Fight, so I'll let you see how that went for us.
The clear is honestly my favorite thing about this, or Ignite builds. Ignite Proliferation with an AoE ability that's also a projectile, so you get that nice range. Feels just so good when you're just walking through maps or areas. Damage is a little bit low on single target, I'm not going to lie, but you do also have the Wave of Conviction for the fire exposure and the Flame War secondary debuff. Currently only on a 4 link, I haven't found anything better yet. Also not on the full damage 4 link, obviously, as I have GMP. Also a little bit slow because I don't have move speed on my boots. It's been a bit hard in SSF, I haven't really found many nice boots at all, I'm not gonna lie. My boots are very nice defensively, but no move speed, so we're slow. The Merciless Lab should also improve the clear actually quite significantly because of the huge boost to AoE you get. So unless we hit a unique enemy, we get 60% increased AoE, which will of course affect the fireball explosions. I'm not actually sure if it affects the range that ignites proliferate at. I'm going to assume it doesn't, but it would be really nice if it did. The clear would be fantastic. But to be honest, the clear in this build is already pretty good. It's not, you know, well-geared tornado shot where you just right-click once and everything within 2 screens dies. But it is pretty good, especially for how little investment into this character there's been. Of course, I'm in SSF. And also, the gear I have got is not very good at all. Some pieces are like kind of okay, but it's all just like random trash that I've picked up while leveling pretty much. There's no crafting or anything that's been done. The extent of crafting is actually using the crafting bench just to craft a resistance onto something extra. The only crafting there's been is actually just using the crafting bench to throw an extra resistance onto, you know, my chest or something like that. So if you're looking for a low investment, honestly this build is decently tanky at the current moment. 4,000 life before I finish Kitava. This isn't hardcore. I don't want to die. I don't enjoy dying in PoE, but I'm not going to build my entire character around not dying. I don't mind if I die every now and then. I'm not focusing defenses. Out of curiosity, I think I have 3 deaths. One was AFK, one was at like level 2 in the mudflats, and I don't actually remember the other one, so I don't know. But you could easily do this deathless if you wanted to. You just play a bit more carefully and don't go AFK in the middle of mobs. And you could easily make this build more defensive if you wanted to. If you look at my tree's spread quite far. Like going over here into Templar, have a little bit in Witch, and also quite a bit over in Shadow. If you wanted to make this build more defensive, you probably wouldn't focus so much, although there are quite a lot of life nodes here, but you probably wouldn't go up here and pick up this quite nice damage. You'd probably just go up and pick up Scion Life Wheel, and some of these things down here are really nice, and just get some more life. Probably try and scale your armor a little bit more for the physical hits you're going to be taking, because, well, as soon as you get your Uber Lab and you get the Bastion of Elements, elemental damage isn't as scary to you as physical, but we are, well, currently at the moment anyway, I'm running Determination, which adds a solid, nice defensive layer against physical damage, because you're really just, these standard mobs, I can just stand in front of them and they won't kill me. I'll just try and find the pack to demonstrate the damage. So now, of course, this is only just a white mob, and they will eventually kill me, but I'm just AFK in front of, you know, 5 mobs. The Vitality life resistance is also quite nice. Life regeneration, sorry. We're going to go into the single target gem setup for Kitava, otherwise it might take a little bit too long. Should be a pretty easy fight. It might take a little while though. As I say, the single target damage isn't that great. If you're doing this not in SSF, you could easily just pick up a Searing Touch staff, which will give you a significant damage boost. You could also pick up if you have the currency for it, which it's not going to be expensive, you could probably just pick up a cheap 6-link, even a Tabula, if you don't mind sacrificing some defensives for quite a significant damage boost. At the moment though, for me, I guess the 4-link is fine. It's not, if you look at the damage, it's not too horrible. Especially seeing as Kitava is usually significantly harder than the first, like, tier 1, tier 2, you know, to up to, like, tier 5. Basically, Kitava is significantly more difficult than the white maps you're going to be entering immediately after Kitava, most of the time. Unless your resistances are too poor and you just take the resistance hit from killing Kitava again. And you just can't handle it. I won't be overcapped on a few of my resistances, but I'm probably going to try and sort out some of my gear. Try and sort out some improvements that I could easily make after I've killed Kitava. I suppose you should probably do this before Kitava, and if you're in hardcore, you should absolutely do this before Kitava, but it just feels more complete for me. But if you've never played a damage over time build in PoE, I can't blame you. It's not the most interactive, but it just gives you all this free time to just spend focusing on dodging. Every now and then you throw out one of your dots, especially if you're playing something like Ignite Fireball or Bane or ED Contagion, something like that that actually has quite nice clear. You really just have so much time to focus on dodging mechanics. So if it's one of your first builds going into the end game, you could probably honestly go for a damage over time build just to try and learn the mechanics of the bosses. Something like Cirrus. Cirrus isn't the most difficult boss, especially not anymore with the changes to the end game in PoE. But if you don't know his mechanics, you are pretty much certainly going to die multiple times unless you just out DPS him that hard. And by out DPS him, I mean basically just instantly delete him as soon as he's damageable. Which for most builds, especially if we're talking about new players here, not really going to be happening. So yeah, if it's your first time really playing PoE, and you've been thinking about playing it, I would recommend a dot build, unless you really don't like dot builds. Ultimately, you should play what you enjoy, primarily over everything. You might want to make sure it's something at least semi-viable though, because I don't know if you're going to have that much fun if you're playing a build which is just awful and you're dying 4 times in every map, and the leveling is just horrible. There are a fair few different types of dot builds, and they do allow you to be so defensive that I would recommend it just to learn the mechanics of certain bosses and things like that.
So this character is now B at 10 Kitava, complete the campaign. I think this character's earned some MTX. That's fair enough. This is one small critique of PoE. A lot of the time, if you don't have MTX, you just end up looking like an idiot like this. Well, I've just got some stupid rag on my head, some purple boots, and some, like, chainmail on. It's not that big of a deal for some people, but for others it is. Just be warned that a lot of your characters are probably going to look like complete idiots if you don't have MTX, because you're going to be wearing completely mismatched armor. Some of the character models do look pretty cool if you have fitting armor, and it all kind of goes together well, but a lot don't. I'm not gonna lie, this character probably looks a bit over the top now, but hey, it's better than it was. I don't have any good shield MTXs either, so unfortunately we're just gonna have to keep this ring thing, I don't know. So now I'm just gonna go over the gear that we currently have before we start mapping it all, and some of the gem links. Some of these are a little bit missing. One thing I just remembered, I should definitely be using a guard skill, but I'm not at the moment. I will quickly go and buy one after this. I'm probably going to use Steel Skin for now, and we'll just stay with that until we get our Uber Lab Bastion of Elements, because that gives a nice Aegis skill instead. But for now, weapon, absolute trash. I think either we want to stick with a Scepter or go for a Staff, because the increased elemental damage actually scales our ignites as well. Meanwhile, something like a Wand wouldn't scale it, because it's just spell damage. It won't scale the actual ignites. It will just scale our flame wall and our hits from our fireball, which we don't really care about too much. Pretty terrible. 32% increased elemental, 35% burning damage, some resistances, minuscule amount of lightning damage to spells. We can improve on this massively, hopefully. Helmet, decent-ish, kind of, for leveling. The stats, unfortunately... Ooh, actually, I can unequip that. Basically, I can craft something on this extra, obviously. This is an open prefix, but the prefixes that you can craft for helmets aren't too great at the moment for me, so we can get a tiny bit of extra life. Definitely a prime thing to look to replace. Amulet, 37 dexterity, 10 to other attributes, bit of cold res, pretty trash, right? The only unfortunate thing is oh, again, I can remove this. Oh, right, yeah, it's because of these gloves. We'll get to them now. We're going to need a lot of attributes from amulets, probably, or from rings or gloves, or just something, basically, because we're not going to have enough strength and dexterity to level up our gems to the levels we want to use. Like, a level 17 determination takes 142 strength. These two we're going to need them decently high for pretty much just gems, but gems are an important part to your build, obviously, so
that's that for the amulet for now. Shield, this is okay, kind of, not really. We don't need the int life. Decent res. I'm not sure whether I would like to stick with a shield or to actually instead go for a staff, because there are some quite good block nodes that you can get for staves. So like these here, plus 3% to spell and attack block while wielding a staff from the minor nodes, plus 6% chance to gain power charge. Not a big deal for an ignite build or a damage over time build generally, unless you have some other specific way of scaling it, but quite nice defensively for that block bonus. This would also actually allow us to take this master, increase defensives while wielding a staff, which would scale our armor, our ES, and also our evasion. We're not going to have too much evasion, but we do have a decent amount of armor because of determination, and also we have a little bit of energy shield, not too much, but some. The other option is to stay with a one-handed, probably scepter with a shield. That opens up some other shield nodes. That would open up all these highlighted nodes here. Probably not quite as strong overall as the staff ones defensively. You are going to be lacking attack block because most of it's just blocking spell damage. The avoid ailments and avoid stuns, avoid elemental ailments and avoiding stuns could be nice if we eventually get all the crafted stuff on our gear to be able to have 100% stun avoid and also elemental ailment avoid. But that's something we're going to be looking for long term, not something we're going to be able to do anywhere close to now. Right now, a staff probably would be more appealing. If I could pick up the Searing Touch that I was on about earlier, that would be nice defensively because of all the block chance while wielding a staff nodes we could pick up, and offensively, of course, it's going to be great. It's lots of fire damage over time multiplier, lots of fire damage, +2 base level to a fireball, and all of our fire gems, I believe. Or it might be fire spell skill gems, so yeah, just like fireball and flame wall and things like that. But those are our two options for the weapon slot and shield slot, I suppose. Moving on to our chest, pretty terrible, quite a bit of life, some mid-tier resistances. I guess the armor is nice because it will get scaled by the determination, the 48% more armor. Definitely very replaceable. Also only a 4 link. If we find a 5 link, probably automatically going to drop that. Drop this for that 5 link, and then we can move our fireball into our chest and have it on a 5 link. Rings. The rings actually aren't too bad at the moment. It's mainly just lots of resistances and life. This, yeah, just a stat stick. Ellie res, bit of chaos res, tiny bit of life. Again, life resists, tiny bit of strength there, which is nice again for the attribute requirements. These gloves I just found basically 20 strength, well, 19 strength, 40 dexterity, very nice for the attribute requirements. That now makes it so I can change this helmet. Okay, I can't quite remove that yet, but I can remove one of these and replace it with something better. Both of these are pretty poor pieces, but I'm going to need dexterity on whatever I decide to replace, basically. Even though this gives 40 dex, it's not enough because we're just going to need so many stats. But yeah, I mean, defensively, pretty terrible. Let me just make sure, yeah, we're not quite capped on cold and lightning res, and our chaos res is significantly lower than where I'd like it to be. So we are going to have to look to try and replace these as well. But again, it's these attribute requirements that kind of make it difficult. It's quite easy to get some decent-ish low-tier gear with a bit of life and a few resists, but while you're also trying to balance stat requirements into that as well, it gets a bit rough. So maybe what I should actually do is just pick up some of these big 30 strength and dexterity nodes that I can to try and help out with the stat requirements until we get better gear levels. Belt, usually you get a big massive chunk of life and some good resistances, and you can get strength as well, as you can see here from this belt. This belt, quite poor, quite terrible. Decent leveling one, but we're going to need to try and replace that as soon as we can, really, because belt is a huge defensive slot. These boots are actually pretty decent. Double res, one's crafted, but okay life, manners, whatever, stun and block recoveries, whatever. Mainly just have these, honestly, for the 4 link at the moment. I haven't found a huge amount of 4 links, and I don't particularly want to waste currency just on terrible items while leveling. And then, of course, in our other item slots, we've just got some white things with the 3 links to level gems. I should actually probably be putting something in there, maybe fireballs to corrupt them and try and get plus a level 21 or a 21, 23, something like that. Anyway, that's very long term, so. For now, immediate upgrades we can make. Definitely going to go and pick up Steel Skin. That's the only thing that immediately jumps out at me, really. Aside from that, we have the Scorching Ray still with Elemental Focus. We don't need that. That's just there because I was using it earlier whilst leveling. Now, they've changed Scorching Ray, so it applies fire exposure, which is the same debuff that you get from your Wave of Conviction. Wave of Conviction only applies minus 15%, but you just press it and it's done, right? You don't have to stand there channeling it to get 8 stages of Scorching Rays debuff on them. That's just going to take too long. And then also because of some extra things like our Mastermind of Discord, it's adding an extra minus 25% to the resistance shred of the exposure, so yeah. Wave of Conviction, Hex Touch, Flammability. Very nice support setup for your main skill, so of course for this build, the Fireball. We have Burning Damage, Flame Wall, Swift Affliction. Ideally, you'd want this second green link to be either red for Fire Penetration or blue for Efficacy or something like that, basically. In PoB, you can check what is going to be the most added damage you can get from this slot. I'm not sure exactly what it is at the moment. I'll check at some point when we find a better slot. In here, we've got our auras, Vitality, Determination, Malevolence. Gonna go and get Steel Skin after this. As I said, that'll be all 4 slots and our gloves used up. In the chest at the moment, we've just got the GMP for the gem swap. I'll actually swap that over for now. When we start mapping, have the GMP in there. So now, Deadly Ailments and Flame Dash. You could use Second Wind support, but ever since they nerfed it so it makes it so your Flame Dash charges recover slower, I don't like it. I prefer to have the 3 charges that regenerate quite a bit faster than the 4 charges that regenerate slower. But I suppose it depends what you're doing. If you're in a boss where you're going to need that instant mobility in like bursts rather than spread out throughout the fight, then yeah, you could have an argument for using Second Wind support. Also, it takes another extra link though, so if you're a gem-starved build, you might not be able to fit it in. As you can see at the moment, I've got spare links, but that's just for now. And of course, for now, we've just got our primary gem link set up. Currently using GMP for clear, efficacy for a little bit extra damage. The skill effect duration is also quite decent. Ignite proliferation again for clear, but it's not also a bad single target gem because 22% more damage is not bad. You can definitely get better. For example, burning damage is 32% currently, but you don't have to swap that out for, you know, general mapping. You can swap it out if you're doing like a pinnacle boss like, you know, Cirrus or the Eater of Worlds or whatever, but if you're like me and you're lazy and you don't want to change your gems all the time, absolutely fine. And of course, Fireball. So yeah, that was a quick rundown of the gear and the links. Let's start getting into some of our first mapping and see how it goes. Hey, that's a nice pickup, a 5-link. Blue as well. I'm gonna try and see what we can make out of that, and maybe we can end up replacing our chest and moving our main link out of our boots. Just currently coming back to do the Trial of Ascendency in Act 8, actually, and it dropped from monster level 57. Nice. We're just demonstrating the current single target damage on... This is only Merciless Zara, of course, monster level 68. Shouldn't really be a trouble for any build, really. It goes down quite easily, not really a stress at all. Also, on top of that, okay DPS. It's definitely not amazing. It might not even be good, but it's doable. Especially with like how tanky this build really is at the moment. Need to sort those resistances. Not really sure how I'm going to do that yet. It might just have to come through gear upgrades, basically. These all suck, so it doesn't really matter. I guess that's actually the best, because when I'm using Elemental Overload, it gives me a higher chance of actually proccing it, because 90% increased crit. So that's quite nice, actually. And then, of course, 3 points, or 2 points. I've decided they are going into Heart of Destruction. They're definitely not going into Bastion of Elements, because I feel like the damage is where we're going to be lacking for now. So there we go. Heart of Destruction. Done. Well, we actually just got some pretty okay drops. These boots are actually quite nice. Quite a bit more AS. Unfortunately, we'll lose the enchant we just put on, but oh well. 40% cold resist, and mainly the move speed is the big thing here. Unfortunately, our resists will be quite poor after this, and if I'm using this, I'm probably going to want to craft life on it. Although for now, maybe it's better to sort resistances than to craft a little bit of life on it. Does this have... Yeah, it does have an open suffix and an open prefix, so I could just craft on fire res or lightning res. I guess either of them's fine. And of course, the new 5-link, I would like to... Ideally, it's probably essence this, but I don't really have any good essences at the moment. I guess I could use one like this to try and guarantee it at least an okay resistance. Let's try that. Oh my god. If these rolls were higher, this would be such a good chess piece, but they're just all a bit too low. I don't think I can really use that. I mean, I suppose Chaos... This is... Oh, by the way, I got a lucky Divine Drop just randomly during the campaign. Probably, not too useful. That would be an amazing kickstart to our build if this wasn't SSF, but of course it is, so not particularly useful. I think I'm I don't really want to waste chaos on this, so I'm probably just going to scare it and try... Let's go use 4 alks on it. Let's go down to 5 alks. First, let's quality it, though. Just add a little bit extra, yes. Again, almost pretty decent. Just, well, is this usable? It would give us a nice res, and I can craft lightning res on this still. If only that mana prefix was life, then it would have dual life, and this would actually give quite a fair chunk of life. I think this is actually usable for now, though. If I swap that, and then I swap, let's see, that. Oh, god, it's all cold res. I need fire and lightning res. Well, let's see. Let's quickly go check the crafting bench. Ignore my hideout, by the way. One day I was going to try and make a nice hideout, and then I got bored halfway through, and now it's just this, and it looks terrible. I really should import some decent looking one. I probably will do that at some point, but for now. So, first thing, this can have life, a decent chunk of life, but I think the resistance is going to be more important at this point. So, let's go lightning on this one. Let's use the slightly cheaper one for now. Okay, our resistance aren't that bad. And with the chest piece, let's go for... Maybe let's go for the chaos... No, let's just go for the alchemy fire again. Okay, so now we need 7% fire res for cap on base and 21% lightning res. Is there any way I can really get the lightning res? I could change this craft, I guess, to fire and lightning. That. And okay, we're almost capped now. Just need a tiny bit more lightning res. I think for now this will be okay, and we'll just accept the fact that our lightning res isn't quite capped, so we're going to be taking more damage. Now we're going to need to sort the colors out. Actually, this is going to call for POB, because I'm going to have to see what gems are actually the best for me for now. We're obviously going to need 1 green for GMP / Swift Affliction, or Deadly Ailments. But it might be that burning damage is better, or fire penetration is better, something like that. So let's go hop over to POB and have a look. Oh, this is our character in POB. We don't have body armor equipped, so I'm just going to have to add the skill gems in real quick. We can actually see here what will be the most beneficial damage. So change this to Fireball. So the first link to increase our damage the most are, first of all, let's get rid of Awakened gems. And I think our gems are currently level 17, so let me take that down to 17. So in power, we're not going to be using that. Added lightning. Well, we want ignite DPS, so let me add something first that increases the ignite DPS. So Swift Affliction is actually a huge DPS increase. I suppose it would be because it comes with a negative, obviously, the less duration of supported skills. So it looks like, for now, just adding extra base damage to links would be very beneficial, judging from these. So just added chaos. I mean, added lightning damage would be a 61% ignite DPS increase for now. That's just because we don't really have any added base damage, which is understandable. I suppose for now we could actually, because this is blue, so this would make our links easier. So we could actually just use something like that for now. So we want ignite proliferation. Combustion is an okay damage increase. Efficacy is pretty solid. Unbound ailments is okay. So yeah, I suppose for now we just want actually added base damage. Let's not forget GMP, which will be a damage decrease. Of course, for single target, we'll be swapping this out and we'll be just picking up our Swift Affliction actually, or Deadly Ailments. Either of those seems okay. Although I suppose for now, like, POB tells you mathematically what the best is. I think you can actually change in the configuration which kind of damage you want to search for. So, because a lot of these will be increasing total DPS, total DPS increasing ignite. So Empower is the biggest one, but obviously we're not going to find a level 4 Empower. So Cruelty would actually be a solid damage increase for us. How does this leave our links looking like? 1 green, 3 blue, 1 red. That's quite doable. So I might actually go for something like that temporarily until we get more added base damage to our Fireball. In which case I think something like added lightning damage will have massive diminishing returns and will be worse than just more damage multipliers. But for now, while we're just starting out, let's just go for the max damage. Especially because it eases our links out a bit, because using another blue is fine. It's not a big deal at all, really. So yeah, looks good to me. Let's hop back in game and do that. So I did quickly go and buy our gear from our gems from the vendors. So now we can see that we're going to need 2 off color. We're going to need 1 red, 1 green. Now, it should be pretty easy to get, hopefully. I think, in fact, we can basically guarantee it if we use 1 red and 1 green. It's only 15 chromatics. Hopefully we don't hit any other off colors. Okay, nice. Perfect. So this is the highest damage setup that I found for now, except Ignite Proliferation. Ignite Proliferation is just always nice to have. If we were going for maximum single target damage, this Ignite Proliferation would actually be Innovate support instead, or something like that. It's, yeah, so we're just going to need to keep scaling our base damage up by the look of it. Luckily, this is quite nice on the colors. This is only temporary. We won't be keeping added lightning damage forever, I don't think. These gems I obviously just bought as well, so they're a bit underleveled compared to the others, but it's fine. We're going to keep efficacy in one of our back ones just to keep that. Actually, we should probably link that with Flame Wall if we can at some point. That can just stay in there for now. But I'm going to stay in the clearing setup of GMP and just keep the deadly ailments in there for the gem swap. And also the flame dash for the mobility. Just the 20% movement speed from these boots already makes me feel significantly better. Or significantly faster. That was the main thing that was keeping me from doing Sanctums, because I felt so slow. The resolve felt like a really punishing mechanic, so I'm probably going to start trying to do those again as well. Alright, time for our first map. Alright, there was actually one final gear change before we start mapping. I actually found this amulet from just a random drop, and this is actually, like, really nice. 50 life, 11% all res, increased LA damage with attacks is whatever, it's useless. Gain 3 life per enemy hit with attacks, useless. But plus 7% damage over time multiplier, this of course scales our Fireball ignites and also the Flame Wall damage over time. Nice little bit of bonus damage. And also it gives us enough strength to actually use... Oh, actually, we actually have enough strength now anyway, really, with all just the gear anyway. Well, we have quite a lot of nice strength anyway, and it should help with our stat requirements. And now finally, anyway, it's time to get into the first map. I'm just going to leave our first full map completely unedited, just to show the playstyle and how it's currently going to be going. Obviously, this is, like, in theory, the weakest the build should actually ever get. Oh, that reminds me, I need a loot filter. This loot filter I'm still using is actually from Sentinel, so very outdated. It's also not an SSF filter, so there are usually a few differences. You can also, because loot filters are fully customizable in PoE, I'm probably going to find one for an Ignite build if there's one that's recently up to date. Or at least an int-based character to try and highlight items that will be more useful, like certain bases and things like that. I'm not opposed to making another character if I do find some like really nice items for a different archetype. But for now, I'm really enjoying the Ignite playstyle, and I would like to probably stick with it for now. I'm not going to be running the Sanctums for now, I'm just going to be saving them up. I've already got a few rooms saved up from just the final few parts of the campaign. As you can see, sometimes the single target damage, a little bit lacking. But it should start to sort itself out a bit as gear goes up. Like, even these normal rares are given a bit of an issue. I saw one comment actually on the Reddit, which is one of the things that made me start playing again recently, was that rares actually, they said that rares actually feel beneficial to kill because quite often they drop, or on death they explode into quite useful items. So far, not been my experience at all. But it very well could change. Oh, wow, that's a pretty nice base, I'm not gonna lie. Although this would be really nice for SSF, potentially, like... having explosions of semi-decent bases like that. It might help for gearing to get some nice implicits. Even from low level, like, this is obviously the first map I've ever done. It's blue. It's tier 1. But so far it was like most rares. I killed basically every rare just to try and test that and see if they did feel rewarding to kill. At least throughout the campaign, they absolutely did not feel worth it to kill at all. I hope that changes at maps. I suppose soon we'll see. But yeah, for now it did not seem worth it at all. Actually got a nice level up as well, level 73. My bad for keeping the map up. I'm really trying to not keep it up, but the muscle memory is just there. Normally when I'm playing PoE, I just have the map permanently like this, but I know it's really terrible to watch, so I'm trying to break the habit and just use the mini-map, but it is quite hard for me, I'm not gonna lie. But hopefully you can see the, like, I say proof of concept, it's a very simple build, so you know it's going to work to a decent extent. The only thing I am worried about is the single target damage. I feel like that will be lacking. Oh nice, bunch of gem levels up. But there are a few extra things we can do to boost our damage. I could even enable Malevolence. We could actually play with this now. We have a bit of mana. I'm not really sure if that's enough mana to be able to comfortably play at this point. Yeah, I can only get one cast off. But I can wait for it to regen because it is a dot build. I don't need to be permanently spamming. So maybe I'll give it a go. I mean, what does Malevolence offer us at the moment? 19% more damage over time and 18% skill effect duration. Increased skill effect duration, sorry. It is a pretty solid bonus, but I think I actually missed there. Nice. And another map. Anything good here? No, not really. Well, that was the first map. Didn't quite fully clear it. I've never actually... I don't recognize this layout at all. I guess this is a new one that they've added since I stopped playing, really. Oh, of course. And then we get Atlas skill points. That's going to be interesting. I think the plans for that are probably going to be focusing on essences at the beginning, just to try and rush those to try and craft some of the just basic decent-ish gear where we can guarantee a few decent mods, and that'll probably be enough for us. We got one more level up. Probably going to be heading towards Divine Judgment because that is a huge amount of damage. I'm going to keep this Atlas point for now, even though I could probably pretty safely just put it in here and we can pick up the essence, but just for a little bit longer. Just going to quickly run through all the tier 1s we've got, pick up the points that we can from there, pick up a little bit of XP. We're currently level 73. Going to be trying to interact with as many league mechanics as I actually can. Sometimes, on certain characters, I'm not going to lie, I just straight skip stuff. I'm going to turn Malevolence off for now. I just don't have enough mana pool, really, to sustain it yet. I always get obsessed in here with trying to kill all the rares and all the blue packs and everything. And I realize they don't actually give experience, so it's just a huge waste of time, really, to actually kill them. Unless, of course, you have to. Betrayal, even though Betrayal is very profitable. Ooh, Chimeria. I can't remember. Is Chimeria good in research, or was it interventional? Intervention. I think it's intervention, so we're just going to talk to Janice first. For now, to be honest, let's just take whatever, whoever in whatever, really, unless, except for the good ones that I specifically remember. Bit of extra intelligence. Jorgen. I don't really want Jorgen, to be honest, so we're going to try and imprison him. Make sure we're picking up our veiled items. Riker is Blight Scarabs in intervention. Those are okay for now. We want as many relationships as we can get, ideally, so we can betray them. I'm not... Let me just preface this with my my betrayal decisions. I'm not a mastermind at betrayal at all. I can't really remember. I haven't done it in a while now. And I was never very good at it anyway. But I kind of knew what I was doing back, you know, 7 leagues ago, like 2 years ago. And also that was for Trade League rather than SSF. For SSF, I imagine it's probably quite different. Oh, there we go. Oh, those are just shards. Okay. I will admit, actually, I do like the rare update where they just blow up into like random items sometimes. It definitely makes killing rares just quite interesting because you never... There might be a way to know what you're going to get, but for now I have no idea what I'm going to get, so I just get whatever I'm given. But it is quite fun looking at the item explosions and seeing a bunch of fractured items, or... I mean, currency's always nice, right? It's simple, easy, but... I imagine there's plenty of different reward types from rares that I haven't seen yet, so I am curious to see, like, what kind of things you can actually get. Not going for full map completion on these, honestly. There's going to be a lot of mobs. These are really low tier maps. I don't really care about trying to get map sustain. Let's just get what we can and get out. Try and play for a bit of efficiency. Actually pretty good, like, I'm not gonna lie. No suffix though, because can't craft movement speed. Oh no, movement speed is a prefix. Well, these are actually really nice then, to be honest. Maybe let's try to keep those. So, we made some decent progress in this episode, going from Act 5 to just the entrance into maps. Very tanky build.
damage lacking a little bit. We're going to be working on it into the next episode, hopefully improving our gear quite a bit, getting our map base set up, working on our Atlas, working deeper towards those pinnacle bosses, and let's see what we can do. I just wanted to say, if you've watched this far, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it a lot. If you have any suggestion or feedback, I'd love to hear it in the comments. A like would be appreciated if you enjoyed. If not, dislike if you want. If you enjoyed and you'd like to see more, I'll be continuing this series. So maybe if you'd like, you'd even throw a subscription. Thank you. Have a good day.